Oh, let me tell you something. Busting makes me feel good.
Hey, welcome to Blockbusting, a podcast where we love to hate movies. I'm your host, Jay Light. Joining me today, across the table, it's Kacey Spivey, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
We just connected. We both found out we grew up in the DF Dub.
The DF Dubs.
The DF Dub.
Yeah.
But
DFW area.
opposite sides. I was more Fort Worth side. You were more Dallas side.
Yeah, it's not really competitive, but I guess we can make it a competitive.
No, well, I think we have probably common ground in that we probably went once we were old enough to like go hang out in Dallas and go like the Angelica and stuff.
Yes,
of course.
The Angelica, of course.
Did you remember like the first time you were like, oh, this is like a cool place to go? Do you remember what movie you saw?
Why do I want to say it was like Blue Like Jazz? I don't know. It was like something. It was a very indie film, and I was like, "What's an indie film?"
I remember that.
It's like I've only watched Disney Channel. What is this?
Yeah, I don't know. Smart House, and then all of a sudden it's No Country for Old Men. What?
Yes, exactly.
I remember the first time because I don't know if other indie theaters do this, but I know the Angelica for sure. Because they had on the silence your cell phones thing, it was all the old people in medieval garb, or I guess Renaissance garb, probably. And there's a lady who has a cell phone in that, and I was like, this is my place. This is great.
The creativity.
Yeah,
come on, art. This is art. This is art.
One time I saw the Hurt Locker at the Angelica, and right at there's I think. Because I know there's a couple bomb sequences in the movie. I think it's the second one where he pulls in, there's like 5 different other explosives attached to it.
Yeah.
And when he started cutting the wires in that sequence, the fire alarm went off, which is great if it's like a 4D immersive experience, but it was not. And everybody freaked out. And we all had to leave the theater.
But did that not add?
It added.
To the ambiance of the Angelica.
So hard. I was like, I'm an indie boy for life now.
Yeah, you're like, I can't go back. Never seen a Marvel film.
Never. I am, oh boy. There's no easy way to transition into talking about this movie, Kacey.
This is a tough transition.
This is tough. This is a hard transition. We're gonna make a hard turn here, because this is a hard movie to watch. You came here wanting to talk about
in many ways.
The Last Duel, Ridley Scott, 2021 movie that wasn't House of Gucci.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he's been all over the place.
He has been like creatively all over the place. Like House of Gucci is so wildly different from this movie, but I also think that this movie is a better movie than House of Gucci, but I would also rather watch House of Gucci again than watch The Last Duel ever again.
Yeah, I know. I tried to rewatch this film like in prep for this, and I was like, I got an hour and a half in. I was like, I can't. I'm sorry. I can't finish rewatching it. It's just so painful to watch for me. But, I'm a little bit on an island. I've realized that my hatred of this film, I'm like screaming into the wind. No, everyone's like, you're being a little dramatic about I'm not overreacting, but I might be overreacting. But I'm the only, I like say things and people are like, what are you talking about? This was great.
Interesting.
And I'm like, how am I alone in this?
Because this movie, for those of you who don't know, because this really kind of fell by the wayside. Everybody latched on to House of Gucci.
Yeah.
Nobody really talked about this because right around the time that it came out was when Ridley Scott was like, oh, everybody's just on their phones these days. These fucking Gen Z kids don't know what they're talking about. And then that totally glossed over this movie, which is, in the simplest possible terms, a medieval Me Too story.
Yeah.
And it's about...
but told from Harvey Weinstein's POV.
It's told in 3 separate parts from 3 separate POVs. Mm-hmm. Matt Damon, Adam Driver, and Jodie Comer. In that order.
Yes.
Matt Damon is married to Jodie Comer. Adam Driver is a friend turned
Matt-
foe.
Yeah, best friend.
Yep. They fought together. This is in medieval France.
It's a true story.
Yes.
I mean, like adapted, but it is like a thing that happened.
Yes, and
based on a book.
It is the last duel of in
1300s?
the history of France, because they outlawed dueling after this.
Yeah,
and they have the literal duel to the death because Jodie Comer's character is raped.
Yeah,
by Adam Driver's character.
Yes,
and this movie, I mean, even just talking about it now, I'm like. Oh, it's a tough one to talk about.
It's a tough one. It's almost like, why did we make it? You know, like what?
Well, it's because I was like reading about the way that the movie was made too.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon had the foresight and writing this movie to go, hey, we have to write this part of the story from a female perspective. We should bring in a female screenwriter,
which is the least they could have done. Also, they started this in like 2019, which is about 2-ish years after the Me Too movement.
Right.
So I think that is important because I think that had they done this 10 years ago, that would not have happened. We wouldn't have had the third act.
I don't think we would have had that third act at all.
No.
And I think bringing in Nicole Holofcener, who is so, in terms of her like creative output, so different from what this movie is.
Yeah.
It brought in obviously great female perspective, obviously brought in some levity, which is really hard to do in a movie with a subject matter like this.
Yeah.
And you bring in a lady who like writes sort of indie comedies about people in their 40s like finding love.
Right.
And it takes a hard turn. But like the big question I have is when you have the foresight from the creative perspective to go, we need more of a female POV here than we can provide.
It's almost like, should we not make this movie and have her do it?
That's what I'm exactly. Why bring in a female screenwriter and have Ridley Scott still direct this? Why? That's my thesis of this argument. Why? It's weird.
What?
It seems like there's such a missed opportunity to have the hero of the story
be the woman who was raped.
Yeah.
Interesting how why isn't she the main? Because it does feel like they were like, ooh, Matt and Ben, we want to make a movie with Ridley Scott. Hey, there's this really cool book about two dudes who fight to the death. Yeah, I'm all for that. I'm a big fan of everybody. Go make that movie. And then they were like, oh man, it's got a rape in it. Ugh, we should probably add a woman in. Mm-hmm. That's what this movie felt like. And then they were like, oh yeah, that first hour and a half from our POV isn't even true. Mm-hmm. Let's now watch the real movie. What?
Yeah.
Just start with the real. There's so much. This story is awesome because you could, making this film from her perspective, the psychological journey she goes on from being raped by her husband's best friend to then risking her life to bring that to justice. Fascinating. Super fascinating.
And totally in medieval times when women wives are still classified as property.
Yes.
The whole crux of the legal argument in this movie is based on Matt Damon being married to her and her being his property. It's a property crime. It's like setting a tree on fire on your front lawn.
Yes.
But it's rape instead.
Yeah. So
it's totally like, it's a story. It's so fascinating. But it feels like there's stuff left on the table.
It's like, why aren't we watching her go through this mental journey and this like societal journey of doing this and being like mentally strong enough to go through it, or even have some doubts, get some societal pressure to like stop? Like, that's fascinating. Why are we watching men walk through a river for 15 minutes? I don't. I don't want to watch that scene.
15 minutes twice, so 30 minutes.
It's so like, first of all, the first 20 minutes of the movie, I'm like, snooze, what is going on?
I felt that way too. I was like, where is this going?
And why aren't we speaking with French accents? Why?
It is set in France.
It's in France.
I
This
know.
is just a pet peeve of mine in general.
I mean, there's a lot of, knowing Ridley Scott doesn't give a shit about having people speak the thing correctly, the accent correctly. An
artist,
I was
truly.
able to let it go.
I can't let that stuff go.
That's fine.
I'm like, okay, so we're half of the cast or most of the cast is American, so we're going to do an accent,
Right.
But we're not going to do the accent
Not gonna do the
where
French
this
one.
is set.
Right.
We're going to do the British one, so that this comes off as like a weird Shakespeare play.
Yeah.
Why?
And everybody, at least in compared to like House of Gucci, everybody's doing sort of the same accent, except for Ben Affleck, who's kind of being it. He's got a whole lot of shit going on in this movie. He's got crazy bleached hair. He's got a bleached goatee.
He's in a comedy, and the
Yeah.
rest is in a tragedy. So I'm like, are you the comedic? Like, what's also? Why is his hair bleached? This is 1300s France, and his teeth are so white.
My guess is
Meanwhile, Matt
contract. I don't know.
Meanwhile, Matt Damon looks like Theo Von in like medieval time.
Yeah, Matt Damon looks like Theo Von if he was bitten by rats.
Yes.
He's got a big old scar.
Got a big scar. Yeah, they made him look like just like a person in that time.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt Damon looks like he's in a Baz Luhrmann film.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is the tone?
Ben Affleck's he's got such a weird look going on. And he's just, it's interesting. You talk about him being the comic relief. And I think
I wouldn't say relief.
I wouldn't say relief either. I didn't even like that. You even bring that up. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess he is kind of
Trying to
the
be
funniest
funny.
part of the movie. But that's the thing. Cause I mean, so like we said already, the first third of the movie, the second third of the movie, the third third of the movie, they're all told from different POVs.
Yes.
So Matt Damon's POV, it's very serious. It's very much like the story of Matt Damon trying to triumph over his own bullshit. Like
Yeah.
he's got a whole lot of issues.
There's like this whole other plot about how he's like he owes money to Adam Driver's character's boss, and like he's like in debt, and he's kind of like this, like you kind of sympathize with him because you're like, oh, he's like this put upon like guy who's like just trying his best, and then his woman says she was raped. Do we believe her? I don't know. I'm gonna do the right thing anyway. That's his story.
The movie's kind of about two different kinds of men in that way also, as you find out later on, where Matt Damon is like the guy who thinks he's virtuous but is actually shitty, and Adam Driver is a horrible womanizer. He's your Harvey Weinstein, who also doesn't think he's doing anything wrong either.
But is also hot.
So it's
in the
okay because it's
movie.
hot.
I'm
That's
not-
what all the women in the movie are saying too.
I'm not even saying that. That's a plot point in the movie.
Yeah.
It's like, this guy's hot. Are you sure you were raped?
That comes up in court. They come up where they're like, you said he was handsome. So did you want it?
So like,
Didn't you think it was a good idea?
which is a fascinating thing to explore, except it wasn't explored. It was
Yeah.
just like, but he's hot. So, do we believe you? I don't know.
My God. And that's because so like the first third of the movie plays out. We find out that Jodie Comer has been raped. He's just come back from war.
Yes. And in this part, we don't see it because
No.
it's Matt's perspective. He goes, he fights, we watch that. So boring. And then he
Yeah.
comes back. And then she's just like, I have to tell you something. But it wasn't even kind of like that. Her tone in that scene was like, you forgot to take out the trash.
It's very flat. It's
Yeah.
very much like, and because also it's got the stank of, oh, it's about my best friend.
Yes. And like, you could have stretched that over a few scenes of like him kind of seeing something's up with her, or her trying to hide it, or her trying to like figure out whether she's going to bring it up or not. But it is literally like they have this really awkward dinner. They go into the bedroom, and then she's like, I have to tell you something, and you need to make it right.
Yeah.
And like, That was fast.
It's very fast. It's very fast.
And as an audience member, you're like, is she lying? That's my first question is like, this seems quick.
So then we see the second story.
Yes.
Where we find out she's very clearly not lying.
Okay, so it's Adam Driver's
POV.
Yes, where he's like a cool guy hanging out with the king. This is where Ben Affleck is in a comedy. And he's like, you know, they're chasing women around rooms and like everything is like rich and fun.
This is like The Hangover, but in medieval times.
Yes,
just bros being bros, guys being dudes. Saturdays are for the boys to have orgies and send their pregnant wives up to go be, you know, pregnant in bed alone.
Yes.
While you get drunk and fuck.
Yes. And then it's so weird because then Adam's character convinces himself that he's in love with Matt Damon's wife, right? Based on like a little bit of flirting, but her mostly being like, cool.
Yeah.
It's like me at a Starbucks. I'm like, I'm in danger, so I'm going to be nice, but I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. He's really putting a lot of emphasis on like a couple furtive glances.
But it's interesting because in this version, we are seeing it clearly, not from his point of view, because we're going, she doesn't like him, obviously.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be, if we're really going to commit to this perspective thing, that she would be inviting and flirty and want it, and it'd be clear to us?
Well, here's what I think is that the way I saw that section of the movie was there's a lot of Adam Driver's character being basically trained to look at women the same way Ben Affleck does.
Okay.
Which is not a good way to look at women. He's literally like they're running, or there's that one scene where they're running around.
He says the same thing.
He says the exact same things.
Yes.
The if you run, I'm just going to chase you.
Yeah.
And he's, you know, picking up this woman about to go have sex with her, and she's protesting, but in the like playful, like, oh, I still want it, I promise kind of way. And so you can see that he has this warped view. And even though the normal human beings like us will look at what is happening with the way that Jodie Comer is talking to Adam Driver in those scenes and can see, oh, she's not into him at all. She's just being polite and trying to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
He, with his warped brain, thanks to Ben Affleck, is like, yeah, she wants it.
Yeah.
She's
into it.
She's totally into it.
Okay, here's my argument.
Argue away.
Okay. So if we were going to commit, I mean, really commit to this, there's 3 sides to every story, whatever, which I think is problematic and they chickened out of, because by doing this, that's problematic. We really would, in this middle section, as an audience member, we would be like, oh man, I don't know. Is she lying? Like, we would really be thinking, I don't know. Is she into it?
Interesting.
I think by doing 3 different perspectives, you automatically put the audience in question of everybody, which is a human thing to think about, is like, okay, this event happened. You have your POV, I have mine.
Right.
And then all of us are a little bit wrong.
Yes.
In the end.
Right.
And all of us are a little bit right in the end. Great thesis. Great strategy for a film. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's right to do it about rape.
Fair.
So, and I think they realized that while writing it, because they consulted with like organizations and stuff. And I remember reading like a New York Times article about it, and they were like, yeah, like the organization wanted to make it like clear that like she didn't want it. I'm like, okay, interesting, because I feel like that was the intention, was to be like, who even is really right, you know? And then that's like, that's not the right thing, because then you'd see it from her perspective, and then you would, as an audience member, put all the pieces together and come to your own conclusion.
Right. Well, and that's the thing too, like, because Nicole Hall, I've seen her in interviews, she is saying that the story, you know, she wrote the entire third act of the movie pretty much.
Yeah.
And her story is a corrective to
Yes.
the narratives that were told in the first two parts of the movie,
Yes.
which is the truth.
But what is truth if we've just spent an hour and a half believing something and then getting it ripped away from us, believing this version and then getting it ripped away from us? Can we trust this third narrative? What?
I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. I disagree because I feel like it is. In the second act, I am not feeling myself put in a position where I'm doubting.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
And I feel like that is by design, obviously, which you said, but I think that that's the right call because
if we're going to do this perspective thing, you have to.
I think, and you have to, but you also have to do which I also think the film does. You have to make it seem like maybe not the audience can see that Adam Driver is sorry. Let me rephrase this.
Okay.
The audience can clearly see what Adam Driver is doing, even in his POV is wrong. But Adam Driver does not realize, which is what I think it pulls it off.
Incredibly awkward to watch and makes the rape scene so awful.
Yes.
Because you're like, this person is in a completely different mind. Like, this person is living in his own world.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just hard to watch.
Yes.
It's like worse.
I will say like I said at the top of the thing, this is not an enjoyable movie to watch.
No.
And we have to see the rape twice.
Yes.
And Adam Driver's, although Jodie Comer's performance in it is not, it's much more subdued in his POV.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing it from his POV.
Yeah.
It is, I think, equally as hard to watch.
Because we also kind of switched to her during that scene.
Yes.
Where we're on her face and we're suffering with her.
Right.
So, like, this is what I would want to see in the version of this film where it's her movie and we see her journey and we're always on her. And like, this is a hard scene, but then we're going to see how she deals with it. We're going to go with her. We're rooting for her. But now we just watch her suffer and then cut, reset. It's like
it's very
abrupt and like not earned, I don't think. It just feels, like you're like that. I don't.
And I also think too that like I can see, like I said, I see where you're coming from, even though I don't fully agree. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that there is also something that like beyond from a creative standpoint.
Yeah.
The film also does itself kind of a disservice by not having her story or not having her POV at least come in earlier. Like I feel like if it was bookended with her POV, then
or if they were at trial and they were all telling their own POV, it would be clear.
I think that is a more that's a way to make this movie be like a great film.
Yeah.
Because that is you hit all the topics of like interesting historical subject matter.
Yes.
We have fight scenes.
Yeah.
We have gender and sex trickiness that's not something that you ever see talked about in movies of this
I like
era.
that word, trickiness.
Yeah.
Gender trickiness is something I'm going to take.
Feel free. That old gender trickiness.
Gender trickiness.
That's
again.
what this movie should have been called overall. Gender trickiness.
It should have been.
But all of these topics, this medieval stew that is created here, could have been told in a way where it would have been a little bit more artistically fulfilling.
Yeah.
And I think not as hard of a watch.
Yeah.
Because it is a really, really hard watch. Like, I can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comparisons that have been made to Rashomon with this movie because of the different POVs, of course.
Of course.
Classic comparison to make.
Right.
But it feels like if you have a better framing device for it, where you are introduced to Jodie Comer's story early, and not at literally the very end of the movie,
almost like an afterthought.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a better. There's more potential there.
I just feel like we didn't need to know Matt or Adam's story. I just
No?
I don't care. I'm sorry, but I don't care that much. I don't.
I mean, that's
Why did we need it? Why did we need it if the point of the film was not there's a lot of perspectives on rape? Why do we need it?
here's my guess
Okay.
as to why we need it.
Okay.
And I'm saying this as somebody who does not feel this way from my own experience watching it.
Okay.
But
Devil's
I feel
advocate.
like I'm devil's advocating here.
Okay.
I feel like there are probably a lot of men out there who saw a movie that had Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, and Adam Driver in it, and it was set in medieval times, and there's a lot of fighting happening.
Yeah.
It's called The Last Duel.
Yeah.
And they're like, sick, let's go see this. I'm going to
Yes.
see this with my bros.
Yeah.
And that's the Trojan horse of getting them to understand
Like
that they're,
medicine with sugar.
yeah, it's the
Okay.
spoonful of sugar to help the rape go down.
Yeah. Did we need that? I just feel like
But you're a woman. You have
Yes.
you have a different POV on it anyway from a bro-y guy who wants to
Yes.
see people in
Why didn't we
night
just do that?
costumes go kill each other.
I think that's a great movie. Just do that movie. Fighting to the death. Awesome. Fun. Friends turn foes, killing each other. Great.
You can still have all that in there with this different version.
You can do that movie, and in fact, do that movie. I think that's a great movie. But then to like weirdly be like, and now it's a female empowerment story. You're like, what? Is it? Because this was a bro film that changed their mind halfway through because they were like, this, oops, I think. Ugh. Well, you know what? It's like getting your POC quota in a cast. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're hitting your diversity quota.
You're like, oh, check.
Right.
Oh, this is about a woman is involved. We should involve a woman. But what we really want to do is see each other fight to the death.
sure.
Then just fight to the death.
Yeah.
And then let the woman do her story. Because now we can't see that film because you ruined it.
I mean, I think that's not invalid. That's a valid POV.
Why am I the only one?
And this is another
Who feels
question
this way?
I have, because you said like every single person you've talked to
Yes,
thinks
is-
you're wrong.
Yes.
What was your experience like even watching this movie for the first time?
Well, I watched it with my boyfriend and his brother,
Okay.
who loved it, which is great.
Great.
And also I was like making comments throughout it.
Okay.
And it was like I was in an echo chamber. They were like, you're overreacting. I don't understand. And I'm like, how? They're kind of like you. We're like, I get why you're upset, but it doesn't matter. You know?
I'm very intrigued by this because I think there's something where it's like a guy is going to have a different experience watching this than a woman is.
Yeah, because it's about
'Cause
it's a guy perspective,
Yeah.
which is fine. But then like make that movie.
Yeah,
The characters don't learn anything. The dude characters don't learn anything.
that's true. They don't.
They just die.
They
Matt doesn't die.
he dies
immediately.
eventually. He dies because he goes to fight in the
He
Crusades.
dies in a title card.
Yeah.
So cool. Great.
Yeah.
And then we see her happy with the kid.
Yes.
Whose kid? Don't know. I mean,
think Matt Damon's kid.
It's Matt Damon's kid.
I think it's Matt Damon's kid.
Is it clear? I'm not sure.
He's got the Matt Damon kid hair. He's got the same.
Yeah.
He's got like the sort of like dirty blonde Matt Damon bowl
Yeah.
cut that he has.
So
well, I
we're-
guess Matt Damon's got a mullet in this movie.
So
Ben Affleck's
we're
got the bowl
assuming.
cut. Who knows?
It also could be a different guy's kid. I don't know. We don't know. It's not explicitly said. She's just like kind of sad, looking into a field, and you're like, "What was this about?"
I think it's a. I mean, I think it answers the question that it set out to ask, which is whose truth
lying?
are we buying here?
Yeah.
And which is the actual story? And I think that again, closing with the truth and I'm saying the truth because it's Nicole Holofcener saying that this is the truth.
Okay, but my argument is if there's three people who have different points of view, you would then need a fourth version that is the objective truth that isn't from anyone's point of view. Do you see what I'm saying? That almost plays like the court.
Yeah.
You can't just say two of these characters are right and one is wrong. What they're doing is going, we can't say the woman is wrong.
I think we're saying that two of the characters are wrong, though. Because I think Matt Damon is also wrong.
Yes.
Both Matt Damon and Adam Driver are wrong.
Yes. Then why do we need... Why are we listening to their story if the movie is not about truth? I think that would also be an interesting movie, is to explore truth in an argument, right? Or in like a hotbed of a situation.
Yeah.
Let's explore this truth. And what is truth? And how is that, is it objective or subjective? And what do we take? And like, that's super fascinating. Did this film do that? Absolutely not.
That's...
Do you know what I mean?
I think I do. But I still think I disagree with you.
I think it's because you like I think it's because you like it because it has guys killing each other.
I mean,
for,
like the
valor
word.
for the valor of a woman. I mean, it is very much like a chivalrous. My woman was wronged. I'm going to stick up for her and I'm going to prevail in the end. And like, hoorah. That's a great movie.
But that's the other thing too, is like, I think, excuse me, I've got my humors are out of balance. I've got black bile coming up. I think that there's like, the way I felt by the end, watching the actual duel happen.
Yeah.
The last duel of the title.
Yeah, which is a great scene.
It's a great scene.
Yes.
But I did not, I was certainly rooting for Matt Damon to win the duel.
For sure.
But I was not rooting because at that point, I already had come to the conclusion through watching Jodie Comer's version of events that he is also not somebody worth rooting for.
Right. So now we don't like him. You know?
I think the movie's full of unlikable characters.
Right.
And I think
But wouldn't it be interesting, which is they can't do this because it's about rape and women and believe women, right? We can't do that. But what would be interesting is if we don't like any of the characters or they're all wrong in some way. Artistically.
Yeah. No, that's actually a good point. I have to concede on this point.
But if we love one character, it should just be that one character's story.
This is an excellent point.
I can't believe I'm like getting somewhere with somebody.
You've made me actually, now I get it. Like the pieces just fell into place.
Do you or just want me to be quiet?
No. Because here's the thing. I'll say this. I mean, I'll say it again.
Yeah.
I still disagree with you in terms of like this being a bad movie.
Yeah.
But I do think now I understand where, like, how you really actually fix the missed opportunities, the many missed opportunities of this movie.
Okay.
Other than just like the things I came into this conversation thinking like, oh, maybe this is how you solve.
Yes.
You get Catherine Bigelow instead of Ridley Scott to direct it. And it's not that simple though.
I mean, it would be a very different movie.
It would be a very different movie, but it's not that simple.
I feel objectively that this was a boring movie, and it makes me mad because it could have been a cool female movie. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm upset about it, as I'm like, I'm bored, but that's okay. I'm bored in a lot of like dudes fighting movies, but that's fine. It's every movie I watch. Fine. I'm mad because it didn't have to be.
Right. Yeah. This I can't disagree with this. I can't disagree with it. Kacey. This hasn't happened on the podcast in a while, but you got me.
I changed your mind.
You changed my mind. I still think. I mean, you changed it to the extent that it will be.
You see where I'm. I
see where you're coming from in a way that like I don't often get to this position. Where like especially when I disagree with somebody, where it's like I think that the craft and the story is told well enough that like
Yeah.
I still am like this is I would give this is good.
Yeah, because you can kind of go on autopilot and go, oh yeah, I'm like watching people in a river fighting. Cool. Like this is, there's surface things that are weird, like tonally and like makeup wise and whatever. Sure. But not enough to be like, that movie sucked.
Yeah.
It's just, did we have to have this movie?
Here, maybe we didn't have to have this movie. I think that this movie perhaps will be like a movie that is setting a bar in a way.
A very low bar.
A bar that can be so easily cleared down the line. Yes. And there are other, certainly, I think, movies that in recent vintage do a better job of telling an actually exciting female empowerment story compared to this, which is, I mean, I hate this kind of genre of movie typically, and not female empowerment, but like medieval, like I've never watched Game of Thrones. This shit's not my bag at all.
Oh, okay. And you still were
still sat.
Pretty good.
Like I sat, yeah. Like I saw The Green Knight earlier this year. I did an episode about it. I hated The Green Knight. I was like, why does everybody love this movie?
Do people like that movie?
Apparently.
Oh, okay, fine.
A lot of people were like, it's a thrilling piece of cinema. And I was like, is it? Another movie where a guy's walking in the woods for like 45 minutes.
That's every movie.
Come on.
That's every movie. But it's fine. It's also like movies that are about fighting, great. Do movies that are about rape, let's be intentional.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. This, again, a great a point that you got through to me, and I hope that other people
you're the
get
first
through
person.
to it.
Are there comments on this podcast?
There can be.
I mean, I'm sure people are gonna go nuts, being like, "I just think that Matt Damon." Like, I just feel like I will just be like bombarded with it, and that's fine. That's fine. But I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
What do you think people should watch instead of The Last Duel?
Anything else. Almost anything else, really. I don't know. I was thinking about it because like there's not really a comparison
narrative. A comparative.
Comparable? Nah.
There we go.
A comparable film.
That's probably
there we go.
The
I got
actual
to it.
word it was
I got
supposed to be.
I got to it eventually.
I love when I don't know a word and I just fish around for it, and eventually we get there.
Let's go through the dictionary. A comparable film like of this type in this era in this genre. I don't know. I would love recommendations because it's like it does feel like the only other film I've personally seen, and I'm sure there are hundreds, but like, and this is not a perfect movie in my opinion, but like Promising Young Woman deals with this subject through a very, very strong female POV.
Yes.
And I enjoyed the movie. Are there holes in it? I'm sure. Yeah. Is everyone going to like that movie? No. But it's almost like now there's a helicopter. Hold on.
They've come. The movie police have come to talk to talk to us. This is the comment section flying in right now in advance.
Get her off the podcast. No more women on the podcast. They ruin movies. Anyways, I feel like these are the two movies that are like on either side of the spectrum.
Right.
Like heavy this way, heavy that way,
Yeah.
Actually, this one might be not fully on the other end of the spectrum because that would be because at least there was an attempt for a female perspective. So I'd put it maybe a little closer, but
I think Promising Young Woman also, compared to this movie, Promising Young Woman has much more, obviously it's more modern, but it has much more of a it seems like a stronger thing it's trying to say.
Yes.
Like the opinion is much more
clear
and fleshed out. And I think, with a movie where you have multiple perspectives,
Yeah.
you're never going to get as clear of a narrative as you are from one person's POV.
Right. But the filmmaker should have a clear perspective.
Yes.
Which I don't feel like was.
And
I
we
feel
should
like this
understand,
was, I feel like this was some men processing the Me Too movement, and like being like, you're right. I did read the signals wrong.
Oh.
She was right the whole time. That's bad.
I did it
Here's a
wrong.
movie.
Oh, well, it's Ridley Scott, so it's, oh no, I did it wrong. All of those years. Sigourney Weaver was saying things right this whole time.
I guess I'll have to make a movie about it. You're welcome.
Well, hopefully we're not subjected to another 5 years of other old male directors processing the Me Too movement.
It's okay for them to process it, but like do it privately. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't make us pay. I paid money to watch that on Amazon, and that's rude.
Should have waited for it to come out on HBO Max like I did.
Oh, true. Why? And why? And why is it 3 hours? We need to. It's just rude. It's just rude.
Stop making movies so fucking long.
Truly.
Y'all, come on.
Y'all.
Y'all.
Someone the other day said naked, and I was like immediately taken back to Texas.
I
Yeah.
haven't heard anybody dropping naked in a long time.
Yeah. Supper.
Out there in your birthday suit.
If we're from Texas.
Nothing but the clothes God gave you. Darn tootin'.
Amen.
I'm feeling I'm going to hit a water slide at Sky Ranch after this.
Oh my God, Sky Ranch. Six Flags.
Do I ever Six Flags?
There is a Six Flags here. Have you been to it? This is
Magic Mountain?
Yeah.
I have. Yeah. It's been a
haven't been
long time. Have you?
I haven't because I don't want to be disappointed.
It's a good Six Flags.
Okay.
Nobody, I don't think, the problem with I was literally talking the other day about how so many people have died at Six Flags over Texas. And I don't know how many people have died at the Six Flags.
Well, in Texas, we let people die.
We let people die. Texas Giant, horrific accident, but they still let it stay open after that.
It's still fun.
Yeah. Still fun time.
Still fun
I love
time.
getting rattled around on the oldest wooden roller coaster in the United States.
I love having a migraine for the next 6 hours. I
Yeah.
really do.
Because that's fun.
And the log ride with the water.
Yeah.
Good Texas fun.
Good old Texan fun. I've never been to this Six Flags up here. I feel like it would probably be an okay time.
Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll go to Six Flags after this. Do you want to go?
Let's go to Six Flags.
Okay, deal.
It's a beautiful day outside.
It is.
There's probably nobody going to be blowing leaves and disrupting the podcast.
Yes, or flying over trying to take me out of this podcast.
Kacey.
Yes.
I enjoyed this podcast a lot more than I did enjoy watching The Last Duel.
I agree. I did too. I think I would enjoy anything, but specifically talking with you about it more than watching this film.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for changing my mind.
Oh my God.
This is, again, a landmark occurrence. Over 300 episodes. This has only happened a handful of times. So good for you. Congrats.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna give you my highest 2 hands of praise right here.
I appreciate it.
Where can the listeners find you on the internet if they wanna see your stuff?
You can follow me. My name is Kacey, but it's spelled Kacey.
Musgrave style.
Yes, Musgrave style. So you can find me on all the social medias at It's Kacey Spivey, Spivey.
Nice.
Yeah.
You can find me at Diet J on Twitter and Instagram, at Blockbusting Pod on all the socials to follow just the podcast specifically, which you should, because I'm trying to grow that following, y'all. I want to get the Instagram, TikTok algorithms to go, hey, we like this guy. We like this podcast.
Because we like this podcast.
We like this podcast.
And TikTok should too.
So follow that. And if you also like the show, tell a friend. Consider subscribing on Patreon. You get access to bonus episodes and my full film library. Very exciting stuff. J-Flix. That's what we call it.
J-Flix.
J-Flix.
That's fun.
It's only $5 a month.
Oh.
It's a pretty sweet deal. You get a lot of cool movies.
That's a latte, you guys.
Yeah.
That's half of an avocado toast.
Yeah.
Come on now.
It's not that much.
No.
I was doing the math in Costco hot dogs for a second because I had one before I came here today.
God bless you.
It's about a hot dog, 2.5 hot dogs from Costco.
I can't believe you went to Costco before here. That gives me so much anxiety.
Really?
Oh, I have to be in the right mood to go to Costco.
I think after seeing after finishing the Last Duel this morning,
You needed a hot dog.
I needed a hot dog. I needed a hot dog, and I needed to go buy 24 eggs for $8.
And you go in a water slide, and then you're good.
Yeah, get a kiddie pool, go hit a water slide, watch somebody fly out of a roller coaster because they're too fat for the bar to come down.
Yes.
And that's what we're going to do after this.
Deal.
Thanks again, Kacey.
Thank you.
This has been Blockbusting. Go see something good for a change.